What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the W Sports Podcast live edition here on YouTube. Thank you all for tuning in with us. Make sure you drop something in the chat, a question, maybe a thought from this last weekend. We're going to do some college football, and we're going to talk about the NFL. Week 2 was in action. So, Tubby, welcome back to the show, man.
What is up?
Dude.
We had some interesting football this weekend.
Yeah, we talked about it last week where college football week 3 is usually that, this is gross. There's not a lot of great games. But what actually ended up happening was a couple really, really tight games, some on near upset, and they're, a couple near upsets, really. And then some absolute blowouts. And, yeah, so we're going to get to it. We're going to talk about it today. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if y'all don't know, you will know. We recorded a podcast this weekend, and afterwards we're like, I had people ask me about betting on college football games, and I was like, I wouldn't touch any of these because we had, I think there was 12 of the top 25 teams that were playing were at least 23.5 point favorites. And this is exactly why I wouldn't have touched any of those games, because I think only 2 of those teams covered, or 3 teams covered, something like that. Yeah.
It was weird. Speaking of betting, did you see what Sean McVay did in Los Angeles, the Rams, 49ers? So it was 30-20 with like hardly any time left. The Rams had the ball, and they kicked a field goal, right? So obviously part of that's like, you kick a field goal. If there's 8 seconds left, then you can go ahead. I wanted to see how much time was left when they kicked a field goal. Hold on. But he did that, and it makes it they kicked a field goal as time expired. I thought there was like 8 seconds left.
Oh, yeah.
The spread was 7. So they made it a push or whatever. So I was like, man, he knew. So I don't know. I think it's funny. People are probably furious when they kicked a field goal instead of trying to, just throw up a touchdown out there. But
yeah,
sports betting world right now.
Well, there was a game last week, and I can't remember what it was, and it was the spread didn't. They were going to be under. Everyone that bet the under, they had it, and then they returned it like defensive fumble or something like that. Last few seconds, team was trying to, defense picks it up, runs it to the house, and they're like, I think it was the Ole Miss game.
Oh, was it really?
Okay. Yeah, because that's what that's how the game ended. Basically, was that defender picking up the football and running it in for a touchdown.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Speaking of more betting news, did you hear about Phil Mickelson?
I saw something about Phil Mickelson.
Apparently, he said over the last almost 30+ years, he's bet over $1 billion, which he still has money. He said that hasn't been the issue, but over the last 30 years, $1 billion in betting, baseball, football, and I think basketball, and he is not doing it this year. So I made it kind of public information, probably for accountability, but he just talked about how he's like, I was never in the moment. I was there with people, but I wasn't in the moment because I was worried about the bets. I was worried about what the over under, all that kind of stuff was going to be. And I liked it because I think that's a good point. Stephanie and I went to a baseball game a couple weeks ago, and there was a group of guys in front of us, and it was like their whole personality was sports betting. I was all the conversation the whole time, pulling up their phones. What was the over under? Pulling up their phones. Who's gotten a hit? Who has got total bases? And I was like, man, that's just part of the game is just not fun for me if that's what I do.
No, I don't want to sit there and watch a game and be stressed out, going, oh man, I'm going to lose. Even if it's just $20. I mean, $20 to me, and I don't want to sit there and worry about losing $20 because some guy came up 2 yards shorter. I bet anytime touchdown and it didn't happen. You're putting way too much more stress onto the game of football or baseball, basketball, whatever sport it is. I just want to sit there and enjoy the game. I mean, I stress out as a fan enough as it is.
I know, right? Did I move my position? Now we're all of a sudden playing bad. I need to find that spot again. I'm a little superstitious.
Yeah, took my hat off, and now we're playing bad. Got the hat back on.
Put the hat back on every single time.
Yeah.
Someone walks in the room, and all of a sudden a fumble happens. Get out!
Get out!
I ain't doing this.
I've literally had that happen before. I'm sure, I don't know if I've told the story, but 2011 NBA Finals.
Oh, Mavs.
Yeah. So our high school friend Garrett, he's like, hey, I'll come over and watch the game 1. I was like, yeah, come on over. Mavs lose. He has to work game 2. Mavs win. Come over game 3. Mavs lose. He said, hey, can I come over game 4? I said, nope.
Hey man,
No, I think he did. I don't think he could come over game 4. Then it was game 5, and he didn't come over, and I was like, wait a second.
we're on to something.
And then, yeah, so then he was like, game 6, come over and watch. I was like, no.
Sorry, man.
And like the Mavs had like this huge lead most of the game. My mom came in. She's like, oh, how are they doing? And she sat down, starts watching it, and then it gets within like 5-point game. She goes, do I need to leave? I was like, yep.
Please leave.
Rizzo, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, welcome back to the show, man. We're just talking sports betting. If you're yay or nay for it, I just can't. It just makes me not a good fan. It makes me not a good person. I'll do fantasy sports like with a $25 buy-in for a full season. Like that's fine because it's over for me. That's over like a really long period of time, like 4 months. Okay, I can handle that. But I couldn't do the game-to-game stuff, even though it's fun. I mean, it looks cool. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's just too much stress for me.
Greg, welcome back, man.
Greg.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. We can go ahead and just jump in if you want to. We'll just jump on some college football here. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready. Excited. We're a well-oiled machine now. The football season is almost a month into it for college, which is
I know. Going by too fast. Slow down.
Let's just slow down real quick. Crizzle does do it, but just a little bit at a time. Okay, there you go. In moderation.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast. Here we are today. We're into week 3 completed of the college football season, as well as week 2. We've gotten a decent sample size, so we're going to break it all down today on the W Sports Podcast, live on YouTube if you didn't know this. But Tubby, let's get this going.
What is up? I'm ready to talk some college football. There's some interesting things in NFL. I mean, it's just football season.
It is football season. Beautiful time of year. Dude, it's been in the 60s and the 50s. It was like 53 when I woke up this morning. I just love it. And then the Big Ten has that commercial that they do on Saturdays where it has all the have you seen the one? It's on the Big Noon game. And it just makes me think of football so much. I mean, it's obviously a football commercial, but like it is just too nice. It's too nice. So, all right, we gotta start with this one because this is the hot topic. Colorado State. I know, who would have thought? Colorado State, Colorado. The rivalry truly renewed. There's a lot of bad blood. I have not seen so many penalties in a single game in quite some time. That was insane. The amount of penalties. I think it was like 17 for Colorado State, and I think I think they had 18, and Colorado had 9 or 10. Yeah. There's a lot of penalties. And that's part of the reason why I think Colorado State ended up losing that, and the turnovers were pretty hard. But both teams did have turnovers, but Colorado State's were a little bit more timely. Yeah, and then, you took points off the board. And a lot of people are, dogging Jay Norvell for taking the points off the board and going, forward with the drive on that first drive or whatever. I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, now you're going to put us at the 18-yard line, first down. Why not? And then you end up not coming away with points because quarterback ends up throwing an interception. I get it. But, I mean, at that point, you're thinking to yourself, we have to get into the end zone because we are playing this high-powered offense. 3 points at the end of the night may not, be good enough. Well, it may have won you the game at that point, but no one knew that coming, that would be the outcome the way the game was. Yeah, and I know for their quarterback for Colorado State, the Braden Fowler. Yeah. Nicolasi, I think, right? Nicolasi? Okay. He had 3 picks. He had a good game overall. I think he kept him in the game for a lot of part. Obviously, the picks really hurt. The last one was kind of, hey, it's either score or not. You got to throw it up there. They really didn't run the ball as well as I thought they would against them. I thought they had 2 guys over 15 carries each, but neither one of them got over 4 yards of carry. And then Colorado really didn't run the ball a whole lot either. And it was very surprising to see these 2 teams who don't have great run defenses not really do much, but they had to rely on the passing game so much. The injury to Hunter, big deal, right? Oh, yeah. The kid said he got death threats afterwards, which is pretty intense. Obviously not okay, but the hit that you took on him was pretty cheap. Yeah, I mean, during full real time, it doesn't look as bad. You slow it down, of course, it's going to look way worse because you could tell that it was, I'm going to take a shot on him, and his intent wasn't to lacerate the kid's liver.
but it was a shot you shouldn't have taken. Luckily for him, that's all it is. He's only out for a few weeks, but it's still a big deal for Colorado going forward because that's, one of your best players, offense and defensive side of the football. But yeah, the fact that people are posting his address, his family's address, and sending death threats and stuff. Yeah, come on, grow up. The kid, you're playing a football game in the heat of the moment. I'm sure there's so much smack talk going on before the game, during the game, but I would be remiss to say that you got to take one with the other. And did you see the video of Shedeur Sanders trying to poke the kid in the eye? So it's both sides of it. So it's not just one side. So just chill out. It's football. These are kids. Things got intense. Everyone got intense. Before games. Yeah, both things shouldn't have happened. But to get someone's address, threaten their lives, their families' lives. I mean, come on, grow up, be adults. Even if you're a kid, grow up. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Greg put it in the chat. He's right. A game like that, it's just charged, high energy. There's some rivalry in there too. But I think one thing to also put it there is that the Colorado Buffaloes are going to have a target on their back the whole season, right? Until they lose or lose twice, they're going to have a target on their back, and so people are going to be a little extra chippy with them. So they're going to have to really, because Sanders can't get into that spot where he gets caught doing that and gets suspended for a half or something like that. You just can't have that. Can't have that from a guy who legitimately wants to be a Heisman candidate right now, and he's played pretty well overall to put himself at least in the running through the first 3 weeks of the season. So I'm not too worried about it. I love the fact that they went for 2 in the second overtime. Go ahead and start that early. Let's get up, and they were winning. I don't think this is yes, they were 20-something point favorites. They only won in double overtime. They had to come back at the end. They won, and it's a rivalry game. They should have won by more. Obviously, they didn't, but I still think that this is still a top 25 team the way they played so far.
I don't. Honestly, I don't. I think it's a lot of the whole that, okay, yeah, you beat TCU where you're a huge underdog. I think you look at TCU right now and you don't look at a team that's that good. You're a 3-point favorite against Nebraska, and really up until like the last 7-8 minutes, that game was close the whole time. And we look at Nebraska offensive wise, they're anemic. And then same thing with Colorado State. I mean, this is a team that just got blown out by Washington State, who a team you play in a couple weeks.
Does look good.
Yeah, and so I still think that there's so much hype on this team that is a big reason why they are where they are, ranking wise. Sure.
Yeah.
And maybe they are a top 25 team right now, but I think it's more closer to 25 than it is, 19 or, where they're at.
Yeah, fair enough. This is exactly why I put them where I did.
Yeah. I'm not
going to say top 20, top 15.
Yeah.
I think they dropped like 2 spots or something like that this week.
Yeah. And rightfully so. I mean, but this is something we also talked about, but, you'll hear in a couple, next week. But I was worried going into this game, everyone's like, oh, they're just going to go in there. Colorado State made it personal. And, it's almost like they were like, oh, we were going to make it a game, but now we're just going to blow them out. And I think maybe somewhat this may have humbled them a little bit because you're a 23-point favorite and you're like talking all this smack before the, up until the game and getting into their face at the midfield. And maybe it'll humble them a little bit and go, okay, maybe we aren't invincible. We're lucky we got away with this one. Yeah. But, that's another thing, though. Everyone, you talked about the chippiness, against Colorado every week. That's going to be a part of it. As much smack as you guys talk, people are going to want to be more chippy with you because now they're going to try to shut you up.
Yeah, and I will say Norvell, I think his comments, yes, they riled up Colorado, but they also riled up his team, and they were ready to go. So I think it helped.
And Norvell said that was my point the whole time was, they're telling us, this game basically isn't even on our schedule. We're just, acting like it wasn't a game. And Norvell was like, okay, I got to find a way to get my guys even more amped up to go. And I think it worked. One thing, I mean, there's a few things that you looked at, like Colorado State, the last few drives for Colorado, defensive wise, don't know why you changed up what was working. You were bringing that extra man, and that extra man was getting home because both offensive lines are absolutely brutal. They're the terrible offensive lines. Yeah. And you were getting so much pressure on Shedeur Sanders that you could see that, yeah, he had the one interception. Wasn't really his fault. The defender ripped the ball out of the wide receiver's hand, but you could tell he was a little bit shaken up because he wasn't trusting his wide receivers. The wide receivers dropped a few passes. And then the last few drives, and then even into overtime, you stopped doing that. And it made him more comfortable and got him more in rhythm. And he drives 98 yards down the field, tie up the ball game.
Dude,
And then they win it in, win it in double overtime. And then Norvell, you get the ball second in overtime, in the first overtime, got to go for two. You have to do, I think at that point.
There's nothing for them to lose if they don't.
Yeah. I mean, why extend the game more and give Colorado even more chances at winning when you just go out there and go, okay, we're going to put the game in our hands right here. If we don't get it, we don't get it. And, it's on us, instead of going, oh, well, they scored and now we got to score. And yeah, go for two and just try to end it right then and there and as quick as possible, because that was your best bet. The longer you let them stay in the game, the percentage of you winning went way down.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move on a little bit here to another upset, another team. Well, upset. This one wasn't upset. It was definitely not a blowout like we expected. But another upset here is Kansas State loses on the road at Mizzou. Great crowd. It was one of the first sellouts they had Mizzou in a while, but it was a great game and a 61-yard kick to win it all as time expired by the thicker kicker. That's his nickname. Did you hear that? It's so
good.
Way better.
I love it.
Kicker. The thicker kicker.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, 61 yards. They had the guy back there waiting just in case it came short. That thing wasn't even that was good, probably from closer, even 63. It probably would have snuck over the crossbar. I mean, you got to give it to the kid in pressure moments. He just steps up there and routine kick looked like for him, right between the uprights. And I mean, right now this team is looking a lot better than I expected at this. And great for them recruiting wise, bad for Oklahoma recruiting wise. That they got the number one defense player and William and Nweri. And as an OU fan, I was hoping Missouri would struggle and he would flip his commitment to Oklahoma. But right now, it's not looking like that. Brady Cook had an incredible game. Yes. So hats off to them, and maybe they can keep, maybe they find some footing. Yeah.
I don't know. Part of this is they played South Dakota, won by 25. They played Middle Tennessee State at home, won by 4. So the next game is against Memphis. Then it's against Vanderbilt, who just lost to UNLV. Then LSU, Kentucky, South Carolina, and then they finish the year Georgia, Tennessee. So their schedule, well, I forgot, keep scrolling down. Florida is in Arkansas. So I don't know if this team is an 8-win team at the end of the year, or if they're more like a 6-win team. And this was a good spot, good note. But K-State did a good job overall. They just lost. I mean, that's a hard place to be at that point in the year. But
that's a tough place to play. Columbia, Missouri is not an easy place to play. Ask Georgia last year. We all expected, we thought there for a good 3.5 quarters that Georgia was going to lose that game to Missouri last year. So it's one of the tougher places to play. I don't think people realize that the atmosphere there is very intense.
It was a great atmosphere. So Georgia, they played South Carolina. South Carolina, it looked like they had a shot. And then, sure enough, second half adjustments shut down Spencer Rattler. 2 picks, I think 3 punts, and a turnover on downs. Not a good second half for South Carolina. Georgia ended up rolling away with this one. Give you a little more confidence just in the team, right? Team, road game, or home game, but it was a conference game is what I meant.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler came out scorching hot. First half, 14 for 17. And you're like, okay, maybe this is the Spencer Rattler that we all expected. He had a good game against North Carolina, had a good game week 2. And then second half, he comes out and goes 8 for 25, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, and here's the problem.
There's Spencer Rattler.
Too one-dimensional. They put too much on Spencer Rattler, not against him, but their leading rusher had 10 yards outside of Rattler and 5 attempts. Rattler had more than both of those guys. It's just not enough. They didn't run the ball enough, and part of it, it's really hard to run the ball against Georgia. I get it, but you can't be one-dimensional against Georgia because it's Georgia. Their defense is too good. They have too much talent, and they ran the ball pretty effectively against South Carolina too. So
yeah, they may have found their lead back. This is something we talked about. We haven't been able to see it. Dajuan Edwards, first game this season. 20 carries, 118 yards. Maybe maybe they found their bell cow back that we're accustomed to Georgia having over the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a sign of good things to come for Georgia. And the longer that they're able to win these games, and Beck can continue to get confidence and learn the rhythm and the timing of everything that means to be a quarterback for Georgia, they're going to be in a good spot come the end of the year. Plus, they're in the SEC division that is very winnable for them. They have Florida, they have Ole Miss right now, and then at Tennessee. So those are the hard games. So there's still some challenges on the road, but those are mostly in the later part of the year. And so you're going to give Beck a lot of time to get that rhythm and find the groove for what that team needs. So I think if you're Georgia, you got to be feeling really good. And then they get Alabama, Birmingham, UAB this week. So again, another tough challenge, but another one where they're going to get some confidence. And then you can see what this team can do come into full SEC conference play. Michigan, Bowling Green, not a whole lot to talk about there, 31-6.
Yeah.
Moving on. Florida State, the team that if Days of Future Past episode that comes out next week, that game, dude, that one was sweating a little bit. Kind of sad to see that they didn't get the opportunity to get it in the end, but 31-29. Florida State on the road, conference game. Anything that you have to take away on this one?
Oh, there's a lot. I think that defense has maybe shown some cracks that we thought maybe would be a problem at the beginning of the year. First couple of weeks, LSU game, you didn't really play much of a team, week after that, but we expected the defense to be a problem for them. And you're looking at a team against Boston College that lost to Northern Illinois, barely beats Holy Cross. And so you're expecting this to be 34-point, blowout, 35, 40-point blowout. And part of it could be that, it's their big bandana game that
you got to play big up on that one.
Yeah, and so maybe that was part of it. But, you gave up 305 passing yards.
Yeah.
Against Boston College, who's not known for throwing the football.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, is third down conversions. You want 1 for 9. They went 8 for 19. There's some questions there defensive wise that I think maybe the cracks are starting to show. You weren't able to get any pass rush at all. And you've got Jared Verse, who is a top 10, top 5 lock for this year's NFL draft. So, yeah, maybe there's a little bit more there. I know a lot of people were, not happy with the way Jordan Travis played. I don't think Jordan Travis played awful. I think play calling wasn't the best. Travis played decent, but the thing is, you barely won this game with Boston College have 18 penalties.
I was going to say the same thing. I don't think I've seen a team besides Colorado State had that many penalties this year. Win the time of possession battle by almost it was 7 minutes, close to 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes. It was insane. So, but like you said, you're going to win the time of possession battle when you're converting third downs. Florida State struggled with that. So it's a good win. You got to hope it was a wake-up call for them that as they go into Clemson this next week, that's a big game. That's a really big game to go in against. Clemson 2-1, coming off a win against FAU. But, this is a big game for the ACC.
Yeah, and maybe that was part of it. Maybe they were looking ahead a week to Clemson.
That's very true, because Boston College hasn't been really good for a while. Honestly, I don't think they've been really competitive since Matt Ryan.
Yeah, no.
So, another team. We're just talking about the top 4 right now, other than Michigan. We're going to hit Texas. Yeah, 31-10 win. But this was 10-10, start of the fourth quarter, 15 minutes left. Was it a pick 6 that ultimately really put it out of reach? And this Wyoming team has proven to be very scrappy this year. They're not going to go down without a fight. They look good. Aren't they in the Mountain West? Is that right?
Yep.
They would be a team that I think at the end of the year, we talk about that. Could this be a top 25 team if they win out the rest of the way? If they're scrappy enough, there's a good shot. They have a very winnable schedule down the road. Fresno State looks like to be one of their biggest ones, obviously at Boise State, but Wyoming, no slouch. Did not get it done in this game, though. But Quinn Ewers looked like the same old Quinn Ewers. What are we doing here on this roller coaster of, if I'm talking stock up, stock down, back down, Quinn. Like, what are we doing? Same thing with Spencer Rattler. Look at it. What are we doing?
Yeah, and that's the thing. People get so excited about,
these. Put that chat up on there that Garrett was sweating through the game. That Texas fan needs to be sweating through that game.
Yeah, people take too much stock into, oh, they had one good outing, or oh, they had one really good half, and then we see the real player, the next game or next half. These guys have showed us who they are.
So
Why?
far.
Yeah, why take anything away from? Yeah, he played good against Alabama, but the inconsistencies for
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers has been the biggest problem. He'll have one good game and then like a slew of really just mediocre to bad games.
Yeah.
And you look at it, you had a 44-yard touchdown to Xavier Worthy. You're like, oh, he bombed it out. No, he threw a lateral pass to the side. The defender missed the tackle.
Boom.
Xavier Worthy took off. And then you have the pick six. That was the difference, basically, really in the game, was those two big plays.
Yeah.
And we're talking Wyoming has the ball at the end of the game to march down the field and possibly win this ball, or at least tie up the ball game.
Yeah.
And
well, if I'm Wyoming at that point, I'm going for 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking this one. We're not waiting in overtime. Can you pronounce Wyoming's quarterback's last name, Evan?
No. Nope.
Svoboda?
Yeah. Nope.
Svoboda.
Yep. Nope.
Okay. I was just gonna be impressive. You usually can. You usually got those names, but Texas has Baylor, which is winnable. Kansas, then Oklahoma, Houston, BYU. This right now looks like it. There's a chance this team could set up to where it wins well, but honestly, I don't see this team with the consistency issues being a playoff team, a legitimate playoff contender from what we've seen 3 weeks into it. They've played Alabama with a bad quarterback, who we'll get to that here in a second, Rice, who was a bad football team right now, and then Wyoming, who's scrappy, but they needed every bit of what they got to win. That matters. I mean, what's the difference between that and what happened with Colorado, right? Which one would you rather be? Schedule wise, Texas. Give me that Texas schedule over what?
Yeah, so this upcoming couple weeks for Colorado, not good. But no, I mean, it's a lot of the same. I think at least for Texas, they're in the Big 12.
That's true. Yeah, how good is it right now that the Big 12's only 2 ranked teams are Texas and Oklahoma, and the Big 12 commissioner said, we're in great hands. This is going to be a great season for us. You just lost to Mizzou, SEC. Your 2 teams are leaving. Now, I get it. You're going to have Colorado and stuff like that, but still, guys, this is not looking good for the Big 12.
Yeah, and what do you say? The Big 12 hasn't been carried by Oklahoma and Texas.
It's been carried by Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's
Facts right, okay?
You're not wrong. Oklahoma has carried this conference for the last 23 years.
And because one team you'd think this would have been their time to shine was Oklahoma State. We don't need to talk about this long, but oh my gosh. South Alabama, they saw Alabama, they just said, we're going to lose. And then they realized it was South Alabama.
Gosh. I mean,
it is not looking good for OK State right now.
No, I saw the spread 7, Oklahoma State by 7. I was like, they must know something that we don't know, because to me, even as bad as Oklahoma State has played this year and the quarterback carousel that they're playing right now, I still expected them to be closer to the 10 to 14 point, favorite, just because it's South Alabama.
Yeah.
No, South Alabama went into Stillwater and put the hurting on them. And the best thing was, in as much I don't like RJ Young, but he put it out there. He's like, so Oklahoma State gets beat 33-7 by South Alabama. In doing so, they paid South Alabama $300,000 to come to Stillwater and do that to them.
Oh yeah, brutal, but good. I'm glad.
Yeah, good.
It's a tough break for Oklahoma State. Craig put it in the chat. Maybe they'll win it once OU leaves. I don't know. Right now, this looks like Colorado's conference to lose.
Yeah, and this is the year that they maybe call it quits on. We've talked about this.
It's
Gundy. Yeah, if you put up performances like this going forward, I mean, you're playing this carousel of quarterbacks and don't know which one. You just find I don't like the whole I'll put one in for 10 snaps this game. This part 10 snaps here. 10 snaps. Go with one for a game and see what happens. Yeah. He doesn't play good next week. Go with the other one for a game. See what happens. Find the one that's going to be the most consistent, give you the best chance at winning. And then the one that has gave you the best chance, the Ragnall, I don't think he played at all.
He got 1 for 5, 8 yards on this game. Not really played much. Yeah, 2 rush attempts for a yard. Here's my trivia question for Oklahoma State fans out there. Which did they average more per completion or play. Passing yards or rushing yards. It's close.
I
Now,
don't
let me
know.
throw this out there. They average 3.2 yards per carry.
Man.
It's not good, man.
Well, the week before, halftime against Arizona State, you know how many rushing yards they had?
What?
0.
Oh, God. Yeah, this team doesn't have an identity. It's bad. South Alabama, 33-7. They dominated this game. Didn't even have, they ran the ball extremely well. They passed the ball when they wanted to. They didn't have to. It's not looking good.
Nope.
So,
yeah.
Also not looking good for Tennessee. Your team, your boys. Tennessee goes and gets – they just can't win in Gainesville. I don't know what it is, what's in the water there in the locker room. Maybe it's one of those pink locker rooms where they paint it and intimidate the other team. Dude, what do you have to say about your team? 10 or 16 points.
Yeah, Joe Milton. The accuracy issues are very prevalent. And, yeah, we knew that the guy has a rocket arm, But, man, the accuracy is not there. The defense, it couldn't stop nosebleed if it wanted to. Etienne just absolutely ran however he wanted on them. I mean, 23 carries for 172 yards, 7.5 yards per carry.
Gashed.
Yeah. And that's all with Graham Mertz looking like a mediocre quarterback.
He looked like Graham Mertz.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know this guy. Doing what he always does. It's not looking good. Tennessee has plenty of time to bounce back. They still can have a chance to get UTSA. That's a winnable game. They're not being as good. South Carolina A&M before they get at Alabama. They can right the ship over the next couple of weeks, get it going. But it's all going to come down ultimately that Alabama game, and then obviously the at Missouri may be a challenge right before they get to Georgia. That's a tough challenge right there. Back-to-back weeks on the road before getting Vandy. So I don't know. Tennessee's got to right the ship quick.
Yeah, I think the leash for Milton has been pretty taut now. It's not very long because you've got a 5-star quarterback in Nico Imalieva sitting in the wings waiting to go. And there's 2 freshman quarterbacks this year who I think are just absolutely, they have it, and it's Nico and it's Jackson Arnold. And
Jackson does not look like a true freshman out there. What has this guy been eating? What has he been working out like, dude?
Smitty built.
Yeah, I do want to see them retire the Blake Bell package.
Yeah, the Blake Bell package has to go. But yeah, Milton, if you don't get it together, Nico, that kid can play some ball, and I think there's high hopes for him, at least next year, if that's the case. But
I like this. I mean, because you also have Arch Manning, who's still out there. You didn't say him, and imagine if he would have gone there. I understand why he didn't go to Tennessee, but doing his own thing there in Texas. But if Quinn Ewers continues to struggle in consistency, at some point this year, the Texas fans are going to ask for it. But I don't want it. I don't think he's ready. I think it will help him to be redshirted this year and not have to play. But
I think Texas-wise, your most dynamic and biggest threat quarterback-wise is Malik Murphy. I watched that spring game, and yes, it is a spring game, and I get that. But Murphy could make the passes, and the kid can move. Yeah. And he is not small whatsoever. So I think he makes that team, that offense, way more explosive than I think either of those guys, especially with, Arch being a true freshman and the amount of competition he played in high school football. I think it would be kind of a culture shock for him to immediately get thrown in right off the bat, freshman year, and say it's like week 5, week 6 or whatever, and Quinn Ewers is still playing real bad. You put him in, you may sink him and
not be
kill
Caleb
his
Williams.
confidence. No, I don't think he is, honestly.
Caleb Williams
I really
is a gamer.
don't.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterback issues, oh my gosh, Alabama right now. Oh, this is not looking good. So they started to figure out the running game a little bit better, which is good, but they almost went into South Florida, which is weird for Alabama to have a road non-conference game. It did feel weird, but a lot of rain there, so it was not a great feel, but still. Ty Simpson, Tyler Buchner both did not play well, and neither are starting in the next game.
I don't blame them. After that showing, I don't care how bad Milroe played against Texas or hasn't played. he played good, week 1, but I don't care how bad they play. He played against Texas. I'll take whatever he did against Texas over anything that Buchner and Ty Simpson did in that game.
Yep.
That was ugly. And I get why Saban didn't play him, because I think he was like, I need to see what these other two guys can do for me.
Mm-hmm.
At least Ty Simpson was able to kind of get the offense going somewhat, but was he 5 for 9, 70 some yards?
Yeah, his actual QBR rating, which breaks down like, the quality of quarterbacking he did, was not good. It was like 21.
No.
Terrible.
Yeah. And so, and this is the biggest question, one of the biggest questions in the offseason was like, what's going to happen at quarterback? And they brought in Tyler Buchner. Everyone's like, oh, Buchner, he's good enough. Buchner's not good enough.
No, he's not.
Milroe absolutely gives you the best shot right now to win some games, but not good enough to make you a SEC contender or a playoff contender.
And hopefully you can coach him up enough to where, hey, as we get into the later part of the year, he's making better decisions, or at least tucking the ball and running instead of throwing into double coverage or telegraphing his passes. But we'll see what happens.
First time since 2015, Alabama is not in the top 10.
I did see that, which is insane. But I think that's also rightful. Like, based off where we're at right now, that is not a top 15 team as stated right now. Don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but Sept, Tulsa, an away home game, if you will.
Yeah.
And they go out, and it looked like it was going to get a little bit closer, and they kind of stumbled as the quarterback changed hands. But they righted the ship 5 picks later and a defensive touchdown. Here we are with 66 points to 17. It was a big win. I think there's a lot of good things that happened in this game overall.
Oh, I do too. I think that Dylan Gabriel kind of quieted some of the haters. I mean, 28 for 31, 421 yards, 5 touchdowns, and you 1 interceptions. Everyone was like, oh, the interception. He underthrew him. He got hit as soon as he threw the football. The ball is going to be underthrown anyways. And then plus it was pass interference anyways. Yeah. Gavin Freeman absolutely got held. But I think it's great kind of look at, because it's technically a road game or whatever, but Washington just played Tulsa the week before.
Mm-hmm.
And Oklahoma outperformed Washington in that game, head to head against the same team. And Washington and Tulsa had to travel from Tulsa to Washington, so I think it kind of shows maybe Oklahoma is actually figuring things out. And there's a couple instances, a couple big stats that you look at. Right now, Oklahoma is one of only 2 teams in the top 10 in scoring offense and scoring defense. The other team is Syracuse, of all teams. Then
wow,
Oklahoma is right now number 1 in third down conversions. They've completed 25 of 35 on third down, which is 66.6%, compared to last year through the first 3 weeks. They were 16 for 36 at 44.4% on offense. And it's even the same on defense too. Last year through the first 3 games, they were at 44% stopping the team, on third down. This year it's down to 29%. And I would say that you probably played, tougher opponents. Maybe Nebraska, SMU is a little on the same scale. Yeah. I don't know. I think SMU offensive wise is way more dangerous than Nebraska has been. So I think that the defense is figuring things out. And they looked a little rough whenever Cardell Williams came in.
Yeah, it happened out first.
But this is a guy that they did not plan for. This is not a guy they schemed for, a more mobile, athletic quarterback. They, expected this kid that started
from the
start. And so, I think there's a lot of great things that happen in this game, even though, we're playing Tulsa. We're not playing a big opponent. But the fact is that you had some adversity, and they were able to ride it and, figure things out afterwards in the second half and shut Cardell Williams down. And
this is a game that with Lincoln Riley in the past that we had, the way the Alex Grinch, the way that it was in the past, this would have been 66-31.
Yeah.
Right. It would have been, we still would have scored a ton, but we would have let up a ton. Right. Would have made the transition well. Maybe it's 66-48. And you're like, Lee, that was annoying. I mean, we won and by 21 or whatever. But it's one of those that it still 17 is still better. It's crazy to think that that's so much better. But they did they were able to bounce back well. They stopped the run well. So I'm very happy with it. They actually got some respect from it. But I like Greg put that in the chat about it looked like there were 9 different receivers that caught a pass for the Sooners in the first quarter, which is a ton. I mean, the box score is just absolutely filled up. I am one of those guys that I want to get me a guy like that can go get me 10 catches. Let me find out how to get him the ball more. And I think they're starting to feel that out with Anthony and Farouk. Even Nick Anderson had 3 catches for 3 touchdowns, which just is absurd. But I think Farouk and Andrew Anthony are the guys that they're trying to figure out, are these the guys?
Yeah. And I think those are probably, the top 2 guys out there that Anthony has insane upside. The numbers last year don't, give him much, a lot. He's still a really raw football player. Kid is an absolute burner. And then you've got Drillo Farouk, who is the more, not really CD Lamb, but CD Lamb type player, where he's a more of a possession type wide receiver. And I like that they were trying to get him the ball more this week compared to what they had been trying to do the first couple of weeks. The kid is dynamic with the ball in his hands, run after catch. There's a reason why he is a kick returner, because he's hard to bring down in the open field, and he's big. He's got the hands. The catch against SMU last week, fought off the defender, strong hands. So I think I like that they're finally kind of getting some vision of who's going to lead that wide receiver room. The running back thing was a little weird. Tyree Walker doesn't get a single carry when he's been the main running back. I know that they were trying to get Barnes and Sawchuk more integrated into the offense. Both of them were dealing with injuries this offseason, so I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird that your leading rusher doesn't get a single carry.
Yeah. I'd agree. We'll see more as they get into conference play this weekend with Cincinnati, which is a weird road game, but hopefully they can go out and dominate. This is one that their defense should be able to dominate. But any final thoughts on college football? I have one before we jump to the NFL. All right. So in week 1, Oregon whooped up on Portland State, 81-7. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see what Portland State did this weekend to North America? I think American.
Yeah.
91-0.
It was 91-0 in the third quarter. Third quarter.
Incredible. I can't believe they didn't put 100 on them. Yeah, they still have plenty of time. It's North American University Stallions are, but yikes.
They're an NAIA school.
They are not good. They had 26 yards passing and negative 49 yards rushing in the game.
Yeah. There's one thing that I won't spend too much time on it, because if I did, it would probably take a long, the whole Lincoln Riley thing I think is ridiculous. If this guy sat down and did an interview 2 years later,
cried about
it. I told the players to stay. Well, that's a bold-faced lie. I mean, we have receipts from parents.
Yeah.
We have receipts from parents. You calling, texting them, say, hey, would so-and-so like to come with me to, California? And then the whole police, people trying to break into my house. You weren't there. No one had. There's no, even like report about it. Nothing happened. All there was a car driving back and forth in front of the house.
Yeah. That was it.
And the fact that you have to bring this up 2 years later, all it tells me is that you're feeling the heat when it comes recruiting wise, because you thought, I'm going to go to USC and I'm going to be able to recruit better than I can at Oklahoma. And the fact that you're sitting close to the 20s right now is probably not making those boosters feel too, the warm and fuzzies, and that you have guys in your backyard packing up to go out east or go up north to Oregon, and he's starting to feel the heat that his name isn't, the big name in college football right now. Deion Sanders is getting all the love in the out west, and he can't stand it. So he had to try to find some way to get his name back out there. It's pathetic. Get over it. It's been 2 years.
I know. We're moving on.
Yeah.
We're all pretty venomous. Let's go. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to the NFL Week 2 edition. Thank goodness the Chiefs won. We don't even talk about it a whole lot because it was a gross game. 17-9 over the Jaguars on the road, which is a win. And Travis Kelce played. So that was good. But I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts on this game overall, other than Patrick Mahomes today got restructured payday. So good for him.
I will say one thing. That defense showed up. The only reason why the Jaguars are in that game is because of 3 turnovers and the penalties. If those turnovers don't happen, this game's probably well out of hand. You hold an explosive offense to 9 points. I think it's a great thing. And it's Chris Jones in the middle, 33% pressure rate, a sack and a half.
Him and Aaron Donald, those two guys will change a whole game just because they're there. Chiefs did run the ball well with Isaiah Pacheco. I just want to see him run the ball more. 15 touches minimum. 15 to 19. It's a good number. Probably get you close to 100 yards. Get in the end zone. But yeah, I think that's a good point. Chris Jones, obviously noticeable difference. I want to know what you feel about your Packers. Jordan Love. I feel like Jordan Love, dude. I know he didn't get a whole lot of yards deep on this game, but he's being smart.
Yeah, I don't put any of this game on him. I will say the late game not being able to move the ball, some of that is on you. But I think you've got to look at some context. You have your number 1 wide receiver out, your number 1 running back out. You had your starting left tackle out, and your starting left guard gets hurt in the game.
Yeah.
I blame it all on Joe Barry. The way he called that defense in the second half compared to the way he called it in the first half, he didn't let them be aggressive like they were week 1 against the Bears and what they did in the first half. This has been a problem. Jair Alexander, he's even called Joe Barry out and said, let us as corners get up there. We like to be physical. Our corners on the outside. We're physical man coverage, bump run coverage, and you're not letting us do that. And I think his season's getting really warm right now. And if we see this happening again, because this team has the potential to be a top 10 defense with the guys we have on defense.
Yeah.
And you're not getting it done is a problem. And yeah, I'm not worried. I thought this game was going to be a really good close game because you are going to Atlanta, his first real road game as a starter. They have a solid secondary with AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates. You've got some good guys there, and
they control the ball so well.
Yeah, AJ Dillon, I'm done. I'm over it.
Yeah, he's done. He's not that good. He's a solid backup, change whatever you want to between the tackles for 3 carries and then give it back to Aaron Jones.
I can't even trust the guy between the tackles. You have 1 yard and you get stopped 3 times. As a guy that big and supposed to be that powerful, you shouldn't be getting stopped behind the line 3 times on 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
Your legs are bigger than most people's bodies.
I know.
So, I mean,
go get the
how can you be that big and not be strong and not be able to get that 1 yard?
Yeah. This game is different, I think, if Aaron Jones plays. I think that alone
absolutely
will change it. But you're 100% right, though, on the corners for the Packers. Look who you're lining up against. Yeah, you got to be a little bit concerned, I guess, about Drake Leonard or Kyle Pitts. But that's it. Like, there's not other guys on here. Bijan Robinson, sorry, my bad. I almost let that one go. But again, you look at that and you can scheme this really well with the coverage that you have. But Bijan looks like a stud.
Yeah, he looks like he's everything advertised, a generational type running back. And the fact that he's doing this and he's not getting all the snaps and Algier is getting a good chunk of it and he's still putting up these numbers. Just think if he was out there more consistently, the numbers he's putting up now, the snap numbers go up. The dude would be on par, I think, with Christian McCaffrey, to be honest with you. He does everything that Christian McCaffrey can do. He can run the ball between the tackle. He can get to the edge.
Exactly right.
He can catch the ball. He is that dynamic. And I know there's a lot of people out there, he took a running back way too high. Sometimes it warrants it. At a certain point, when you have a guy that good and has the generational talent that he has, I mean, I said it in our draft podcast. I think this was the best running back prospect we have seen since Adrian Peterson.
Take one.
Yeah. And it's just the truth. I mean, the kid is just a different type of player.
Yeah, it makes you think, Texas, what were you doing not giving this guy the ball more, let alone in the 4th quarter? What are you doing? Texas being Texas. Love it. Speaking of running backs that have made a breakout this last weekend, James Cook, stop giving the ball to Latavius Murray at all. We should be done with it and just give it to James Cook. He actually looked like he he held his own today. This last week, and it was really helpful for Josh Allen, who got some pressure taken off of him, and then he was able to complete passes, limit the turnovers, the mistakes, and this team won. This team dominated the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, you held the NFL rushing leader to -2 yards.
Impressive. Like, I don't know how the longest run of the day, 3 yards. Everything else, nothing.
Yeah, this is definitely a game that they needed. They needed Josh Allen to play smart football. They needed, and this, what has everyone been saying the last 2 or 3 years? They need a run game. They need a run game. You drafted James Cook last year, and you thought, okay, this guy's going to be going to take over eventually at some point last year. Didn't really do it. They still were, piddling with Devin Singletary. And then week 1, you expected more of him and didn't really get it. This week, I think we've finally seen, okay, we give the guy the ball 15 to 20 times, 17 times, this week. You threw him the ball a few times. This kid is dynamic. Get the ball in his hands. Takes all that pressure off Josh Allen because now he doesn't have to run the football and take these big shots.
Yeah, I'd also throw it out there. You don't need Damian Harris either. You need to give James Cook a break. Okay, fine, one of those guys. But you definitely don't need both.
No.
Don't need Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. But yeah, so Josh Allen looked much better. The Bills look like the Bills, and which is hopeful. You got to have a good sign. Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs and Dalton Kincaid. Great game. You look across the board, it was a good game for the Bills. Raiders, again, not so much. The Lions bounce back after a win in Kansas City. They get the Seahawks at home, and they lose it in overtime. Jared Goff finally had a turnover with the pick. David Montgomery, an okay game. I guess a pretty good game. And Jahmyr Gibbs just could not get it started. I think that was a big factor for this one for me. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you lose David Montgomery now. He's out possibly a couple weeks. He got hurt. But the fact was, before the game, a couple days before the game, Dan Campbell comes out and says, we're going to get Gibbs more into the game. We're going to get him more, carries and stuff like that. And that just wasn't the case, which I don't understand. Nothing against David Montgomery. David Montgomery is a good running back in the NFL. But this kid is a different type of player. The dynamic plays. I mean, we saw it week 1 against the Chiefs. His 7 carries compared to the 15 carries that David Montgomery had. Yeah, Montgomery scores the touchdown, but the kid made the plays, the catches, and everything. So maybe they'll be able to get him more in tune to the offense because you are lacking some playmakers, especially now. I mean, Amon-Ra did come back in, but he's a little banged up with this calf injury. Got to find some way to get more dynamic, I think, on offense to really give you a chance to make a decent run at the North or even a playoff spot right now.
Yeah. I think it was a disappointing week to come back. And the Seahawks, we had thought after last week, this team just is not who they were. 1 year wonder. Geno Smith looked like Geno Smith from last year. Kenneth Walker got the end zone twice, couldn't really run the ball very well. I think this next week is going to be big for them to bounce back, and they're going to play against the Falcons. The Falcons, we know, are going to try and control the ball and keep it out of the Lions' hands. They're going to limit possession. So it's going to be a good game, a good matchup, I think, for them overall. How worried on a scale of 1 to 10 are you for the Bengals?
I'm still not worried. We saw this. It's the same thing that happened beginning last year.
Yeah.
Burrow has 5 or 6 interceptions to the first couple of games, and we're looking at it and we're like, okay, they're in trouble. Joe Burrow has regressed a whole lot, and I think everyone's taken a lot into it. Now there is some worry now with Joe Burrow re-aggravating the calf injury. At the final possession of the game, he tweaks that calf. So maybe there should be a little bit more worry. But man, why are we not getting Joe Mixon the ball more?
Dude, teams think that you can't pass it I'm gonna pass to open up the run, or they think a 4-yard pass is the same as a 4-yard run. Greg in the chat, you know that is incredibly wrong and false. Okay, you are one of the best offensive linemen I knew, and so here that you have to run the ball to establish the run. That's what you have to do. And you're right, Joe Mixon is too talented to have him. What did he have in this game? 13 touches?
Yeah.
No, he had 4 catches too. 17 touches. Is that all you wanted?
I mean, is the same thing week 1. You look at it, 17 touches. Oh yeah. But the fact is that you run the football, it does open up downfield because now they have to go, I gotta cheat down a little bit. Maybe they're gonna run the football, or it just opens things up more. Get the guy the football. Take some of the stress off Joe Burrow. Yeah, you have great wide receivers, and T. Higgins shows up this week, but Jamar Chase was basically nowhere to be found. He had 3 catches, 50 yards, 5 catches, 50 yards, something. Just come on. There's got to be something more you can do to get the guy into the game to help build some type of cohesion on that offense.
Yeah, and I think that's what worries me the most, though, is Joe Burrow's injury. This is one of those that you tweak, it hurts, it takes longer to get back to 100%, you tweak it again. So that's what worries me about the Bengals team. Not necessarily the 0-2 record in a 17-game season. They have a lot of time to bounce back. It just worries me that he's hurt. It just worries me that they're going to play the Rams, Titans, Cardinals. So that's a very winnable next 3 games, including the Seahawks before they go at 49ers and Bills. But they got to get the ship righted here pretty quick. Otherwise, you're going to dig yourself a really big hole that then if you dig yourself too deep of a hole and then he tweaks it again, they just say, call in the season. We're done. We'll come back next year. And then it's just a loss. It's just a wasted year. I mean, that's a lot to do, especially even if you're Joe Mixon. You're like, yo, I came back here for this, and we just wasted a year. I'm a running back. I don't have a year to waste. We got to go for it.
I took a pay cut to come back here.
Yeah. So –
yeah.
Well, let's move on then to the Detroit Lions. The Chicago Bears fall to 0-2. They're sputtering. Stock up, though. Buccaneers, look at them, 2-0. Who would have called that with Baker Mayfield having a monster game, dude? I know he only had 1 passing touchdown, but he is, dude, let's go.
I mean, yeah, 26 for 34, 317 yards.
9.3 yards an attempt.
Yeah, not too many people seen this coming, and I'll be honest, I was hopeful that it could happen.
Yeah, but I didn't see it coming.
Expectations, didn't expect this to happen. So I think it's great for Baker. Maybe he's showing people, yeah, count me out. Maybe this the final chip he needed on his shoulder to maybe rewrite his NFL career. Keep him as a starting quarterback going forward. Man, Justin Fields, I don't know. The offensive line hasn't improved a whole lot. Gave up 6 sacks. Gave up 4 sacks the week before. And then the play calling too. Yes, Justin Fields takes some of the onus for the way he has played. But you call a screen pass in your end zone. Literally, it kind of reminds me of the Josh Heupel, Trevor Knight pass against Kansas State. You remember that? The quick out on the 2-yard line. What are we doing? Defense ain't gonna cheat off you that much. They're gonna put pressure on you. They knew it was coming. You're gonna run a screen pass in the middle of the field too. It wasn't even off like a normal wider running back slip screen.
Mm-hmm.
You threw it in the middle of the field. I don't know. I think Getsy's leash is getting real short.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields, I think, like most of America and most football fans, we expected a bigger jump from Justin Fields this year. Whether it's the offensive line or not, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I did, especially on the passing side. Like last year, he had over 1,000 yards rushing, 1,100 yards rushing. He had 2,200 passing yards. Right now, he is just struggling so much. You haven't seen him take the step forward like you would expect a third-year quarterback. I mean, right now, honestly, who would you rather have, Justin Fields or Jordan Love?
Oh, I would have took Jordan Love at the beginning of the season, and that's all based off the fact that I knew when it come down to it, at least Jordan Love could throw the football. One of the big things you need for a quarterback in the NFL is that they can make the passes, and I saw enough, I think, from Jordan Love that I knew he could make the right passes and you could read a defense. Justin Fields hasn't shown me that, the first couple seasons in his NFL career, and hasn't showed me that the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious here then. Commanders versus the Broncos. Your boy Sam Howell has played pretty well to come into this season, and they're 2-0 already, which the Commander fans have got to be excited about. I mean, I don't know how many people had that on their bingo card. Brian Robinson had a massive game, which was good to see. Terry McLaurin obviously back in line, got into the end zone. And they almost lost on the comeback. Well, we don't know. We got spoiled on no overtime on this one. Was the Denver Broncos? Was it pass interference?
Probably.
But probably doesn't mean yes.
Yes, and that's the problem. And it's kind of one of those areas where it's kind of like the Utah Baylor game where we're like, it was probably pass interference, but can you really make that call at that time?
Yeah.
Because it was so the line was so thin that you're like, yeah, it probably was, but probably doesn't count.
Yeah.
It has to be 100% sure. And I mean, you got the Broncos jumping out to a huge 21-3 lead, and then the Commanders coming back 32, to 12 after that, and then the Broncos throw the Hail Mary, and then you're like, well,
What's
just
going
the
on?
up and down of that game. But yeah, I think Sam Howell, this is what made me question how he dropped to the third round of the draft. How does this? The talent was there, and I know that 1 year everyone looked at it and were like, man, he didn't perform well. There's a lot of outstanding reasons why he didn't perform well that year, and maybe we're seeing some of the same things with Drake May this year.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things that they have figured out. They got to get Brian Robinson the football. I think this game, 149, all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns. They're getting him involved in the receiving game, which is something I don't think a lot of people expected because you have Antonio Gibson, and Antonio Gibson's supposed to be the receiving back. Well, he's week 1 has a receiving touchdown, and this week he has 2 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. Maybe he's more of a receiving back than we gave him credit for.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then fantasy-wise, this is going to be a guy that's going to be an RB2 flex play every single week.
And he was one of those guys that I really wanted at the end of the draft this year because he was falling, but just didn't get enough shares of him in my 4 leagues.
I think in my 5 leagues, I have him on 4 teams.
Oh, well, you must be feeling pretty good about this.
Like you said, he was that guy at the back end of the draft that I was taking because I knew the upside, and it was always the 50-50 split. Do I take him or Antonio Gibson? And I always leaned more to Brian Robinson because I was like, can the yards per attempt be as bad as they were last year? And if they're not, and if they increase, full yard or so, then we're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. Good news for the Colts. Their leading quarterback this weekend, had a really good 19 for 23 game. The bad news, it was not Anthony Richardson, who went out with a concussion after 2 rushing touchdowns. I don't know. He's not the first person to have a concussion this year. Obviously, there's been many of those, but it does raise you never want to see that happen. So,
he's gonna have to learn to throw the football more. And I know that's his biggest deficit is his accuracy throwing the football. But through a game and 4 minutes, he's ran the football 13 times as a quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't want your quarterback taking that many hits because this is what happened. As big as he is a big running, big running threat, and he's a big boy. And so you think maybe he can take the hits, but ask Cam Newton. Those hits add up over time. Your career becomes a lot,
shorter.
A lot shorter than they, typically would be. He's going to have to trust his arm, his accuracy more. And the offensive line isn't the best there, but you're going to have to find a way to either throw the football away, get down sooner, stop dropping the shoulder, trying to run over the guy. I know you're bigger than him more than likely, but
it's also the NFL. Everyone's bigger. Mm-hmm. Everyone's faster. Everyone's stronger than he's ever played before. So I think this is part of the learning curve for him. It's just a tough loss. I mean, Colts still won the game, so fans got to be happy. But they're definitely nervous.
C.J. Stroud had a sneaky good game. Him and Nico have seemed to have found a chemistry. And Nico Collins and Stroud, maybe that's a different dynamic.
Could be the connection that they want, but I got to keep them off the ground. 6 sacks again. Tell me something that doesn't sound like the Houston Texans.
I mean, you're playing that game without Tunsil, without Titus Howard, your 2 starting left and right tackles. Yeah, you're in for a long day.
Yeah. So 2 thoughts: the Dallas Cowboys should be called the New York Cowboys at this point because here we are. They've dominated New York. The Jets. Oh my gosh, how are you going to give Breece Hall 4 carries for 9 yards? That's why you lost.
And then same thing with Dalvin Cook. 4 carries for what? Was it 8 yards, 6 yards?
Yeah.
It was. I had somewhat of hope for Zach Wilson after week 1. Against the Bills. The one interception wasn't. It was a bad interception, but you're like, hey, there was a lot to build on confidence-wise where you were able to lead this team to a win.
Yeah.
After you lose Aaron Rodgers with all the outstanding circumstances. And so you're like, yeah, Cowboys isn't the best matchup for your first start of the season. And it absolutely showed. And the Jets, they're in some dire straits right now.
Remember them when they were the Super Bowl favorite a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. That guy can't win you a Super Bowl. And I will say the defense has looked very pedestrian the first couple weeks.
So far. I mean, against the Bills.
No, they did, but the 4 turnovers I think were more. Josh Allen threw 3 of those straight to Whitehead.
I mean, he got his bonus for the year. Did you see that? 250
game week 1.
Got it.
Yeah. He threw those balls in double coverage. It wasn't like it was, great defense. Josh Allen before that was able to move the ball kind of at will for a little bit. Dak Prescott in that offense was able to move the ball at will. And part of that is that you're on the field a lot longer. But I would say Sauce hasn't looked as great as he did last year. Maybe there's some, off-season hangover after winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year. They was week 1, they targeted him 5 times, the Bills did. Mm-hmm. The receiver caught all 5 passes.
Yeah. Maybe you just need to be humbled.
They probably did, to be honest with you.
Maybe the Cowboys' run defense is better. That was their Achilles heel last year. That's how you could beat them, especially come playoff time. I don't know yet. We haven't gotten the right team to play against them yet. So I'm not calling the Cowboys yet.
You won't see that until I think week 5 when they played the 49ers, because they played the Cardinals this week, and then they played the Patriots the week after. Yeah. But the Patriots are a better team, so maybe they'll show a little bit, but that offensive line for the Jets, it's not good anyways. But
the Cardinals are trying.
I can't say that we can look at this defense and say they fixed things. Yeah, they have played good against 2 teams that aren't good or had really bad days. So I think the question's still out. Has the defense improved like it's showing, or you play against CMC and is he going to have 170 yards and a couple touchdowns on the ground? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Miami Dolphins beat the New England Patriots, so they're 2-0, and then the Patriots are 0-2 despite playing decently well. I mean, they've just been in some shootouts they've lost. So I don't know. The Dolphins look like they are coming alive right now. The defense has definitely given up some points. They remind me a lot of like the Colts with Peyton Manning or the Chargers early on with Schottenheimer, and you're like, oh, they're going to score a lot of points. They're going to give up a lot of points, but they're going to score a lot of points.
Yeah. I would say I think a lot of people are going to look at the 0-2 for the Patriots and go, oh, well, you're 0-2, so you must not be that good. They played good against 2 of the best teams in football.
Yeah.
You would hope you would come out with a win. Both of them are, 1-possession games. But I think for Bill Belichick, there has to be a little bit of a sigh of relief that the interception for Mac Jones wasn't great. But Mac Jones has played good. And I think the thing that they noticed in this last game was we have to get Ramondre Stevenson more involved in the game, and they were able to do that in the passing game and in the run game. So maybe going forward, take a little bit off of Mac and be able to give the ball more to Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe it makes Mac even more sharper than he has been in the first couple weeks.
Yeah, Mac's done a better job this year than I expected. I'll be honest. Really am surprised. But
it's Bill O'Brien, the Bill O'Brien effect. I'm telling you.
Dude, it is. You're right. You mentioned it before in the offseason too. So if you look at the Vikings, is there any chance? I mean, they're 0-2. We 2 1-possession games that they've lost this year compared to last year. Is Kirk Cousins finished the year as their starting quarterback, or is he the hot commodity?
I know there's the rumors, the Jets. I don't know how you find the money to do that. You're paying Aaron Rodgers $70 million this year. You're going to pay, Kirk Cousins $35 million. That I don't think the math would add up right. They would have to trade off a big player on their team to offset the, salary caps. I think he ends up a Viking still at the end of the season. I don't know if they'll trade him or not. And I know people are like, oh, in the next couple of weeks it's going to happen. They ain't going to throw the towel in that fast.
Yeah, probably not. It's a long season. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. Giants lost. Or not
No,
Giants lost. Giants came back and won.
Yeah.
But it does feel like the Cardinals didn't win that game a little bit. How concerned are you for the Giants?
I mean, they probably lost in a sense that Saquon's now out 3 weeks.
That's true.
So he probably lost. Yeah. That
with
offense.
His history too, he might be longer.
Yeah, that offense takes a huge hit. Yeah. At least Daniel Jones was able to bounce back after the abysmal start of that game and the terrible week 1. I mean, you're down 20-0 in a blink of an eye, and we're like, "What is this? The worst team in football right now?"
Yeah.
There was a lot of questions. I mean, you were at one point you had been outscored 60-0 through a game and a half of football.
It's pretty bad. And they're
in the NFL. Yeah, and so and you able to come back.
Yeah.
I think maybe it speaks a little bit to the the mental of Daniel Jones in that offense, but that defense is a big problem. They haven't improved at all.
I agree. They haven't, and that's going to be a big problem if they're not going to be able to run the ball to keep them off the field. Then they're going to be on the field too much. So,
yep,
kind of an uphill battle. So, any final thoughts on the NFL before we go through some quick picks for this upcoming college football weekend, which we should have done earlier, but I
forgot. I got one. So we had something in the notes. We're kind of running short on time, but I'm going to go ahead and give my finish line.
Oh, yeah.
Pick, and it's Brandon Staley needs to be fired.
Okay. I like it.
You can't go into the game where you're playing against Tennessee, a team that just lost to the New Orleans Saints in an absolutely ugly game, and let Ryan Tannehill go 24 for 27, and you lose in overtime because you can't move the football or your defense can't get the stop. Something has to be done because obviously this guy's not good when it comes the late games. Last 12 one-possession games for the Chargers, they're 6-6.
Yeah.
And some of these teams that they lost to were the Raiders. Raiders last year, Titans, the Cardinals. That can't happen. This guy, he has shown us who he is as a head coach, and it's not a good one, and especially when it comes crunch time. This guy cannot coach a team or motivate the team. I don't know what it is. There's some disconnect there because if not, you're going to just waste Justin Herbert and the rest of what Keenan Allen has for you.
Classic Chargers move right there.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go through some quick picks. So I just want you to take your gut reactions on some of these picks for this upcoming weekend. There's a lot of ranked matchups. So this one's not ranked, but I want to start with it. It's Florida State, Clemson. Who you got? It's in Clemson.
I'm going to take Florida State. I think even after last week, it wasn't the prettiest game for them, but I'm going to take Florida State. I still don't trust Kate Klubnik in that offense.
I don't either.
Against,
not yet. I would agree.
You haven't. Those 2 games that you've played since the Duke game, the Duke game was kind of fluky, whatever. But I still don't think you're an explosive offense, especially weapons-wise on the outside. Yeah.
Oregon against Colorado.
Honestly, if Colorado plays like they did this week, that's a 30-point blowout.
Oregon's favored by 21.
Yeah, I think it's Oregon, and I don't think it's close, honestly. This Oregon team is far better than anything team Colorado has played. Colorado is a gutsy team. They are really talented, but now you're without Travis Hunter for 3 weeks. That's a big hit.
Big loss. Yeah. UCLA at Utah.
I'm going to take UCLA. I don't trust Utah right now. I don't know if Cam Rising is playing or not.
Yeah, and college football is so hard to know on these injury reports. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I just don't trust the way Utah's played through the first couple weeks. Dante Moore looks like he is.
Yes, he's coming along.
A really good. He's a good young, solid quarterback, and I think they are kind of sneaky. I don't think people know that they're ranked in the top 25, and they've played pretty decent football.
Mm-hmm. Ole Miss at Alabama. Oh
man,
come on now!
I'm taking Ole Miss.
Whoo, he's off the Alabama bandwagon, and he is all aboard everybody else. Let's go.
And I don't like Ole Miss. I don't. I said this last week when but I do not like this Alabama team at all. I think they're they're in this weird funk right now, and they're not getting out of it this week.
Yeah.
Even Lane Kiffin, this is something I probably should have brought up. I don't want to take too much time. He's like, that guy, Mike Steele or Kevin Steele, the defense coordinator, he said, I guarantee you right now, he's not calling the plays. He said, I saw that defense that they call, defensive play calling against USF, and that wasn't his normal play calling. He said, I think this other guy has taken over. So I've been watching film on the way he calls plays and not how Kevin Steele calls plays.
Oh, dang. Wow.
Yeah.
Got out of the bag. There you go. All right. So we got the pride of the Pac-12, the Pac-12 of 2024 playing against each other this week. Oregon State at Washington State. Who wins? Ranked opponents.
Oh, this is going to be a good game, I think. I
think
like
so.
the matchup. I'm going to take Oregon State. I think that they're the more complete team.
Yeah. All right. I like it. Those are the picks. Watch them this weekend. Make sure that you keep up with the picks and see how Tubby does. I'm telling you, this guy's pretty good at making picks. So we're going to see what happens. But we wanted to say thank you guys so much for joining the podcast. We know it was a fast-paced podcast because that's what happens sometime in the world of sports. Things move quick. So if you don't want to miss anything, make sure you tune in every single Monday right at 6:30. We're going to be live recording the podcast, talking to you guys in the chat. So make sure you always come ready to talk sports because we're going to be there. Subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching on YouTube, and make sure you give us a review. We haven't talked about that in a while, but that goes a long way. We are a 5-star podcast, and we greatly appreciate all the support. Tubby, any last words?
No, I think we're good. I think I talked a lot already, so I think I'm kind of out of it.
we hit the word limit for Tubby. So till then, everybody, we hope you have a great week. We hope you enjoy some football, but we'll see you all next time.
See ya.